Yes, that was a special day. It had been a huge struggle to get there, funding it, all sorts of issues. And well, a particular piquancy to the day was that we'd been sent equipment by NASA. Good on them. Not only were they paying for half of the international link, they supplied equipment for it as well, which we couldn't afford. However, part of that was the router they sent, Proteon router.
He's got to tell the story.
Yeah. The difficulty was there was no service for it in New Zealand. We couldn't get it maintained in New Zealand. So for some months before that, I'd asked, could we have a Cisco router instead? Because we'd been looking at Cisco's. They looked very practical. They had a whole range of features for doing other things. But crucially in this case, there was local support for it. And any time I mentioned this, folks at NASA and the University of Hawaii would give me a list of things that the Cisco didn't do, that the Proteon didn't. And I researched these things, and one by one in each case I found out that in fact the Cisco did do these things. So anyway, after a period of time, the folks at NASA said, well, look, our operations staff are used to Proteons, so that's what we're sending you. Some while later, I remember thinking, instead of spending all those time writing those letters, doing that research, if I'd bought Cisco stock, I would, been retired a couple of years later and made the point. But so I was very concerned. I think I mentioned that we were paying $5,500 a month for our half circuit. And it's hard to believe now, but that was a huge hurdle at the time. And it was going to be really important that this thing started working from the moment we started paying that fee. So I was very worried that this thing wouldn't work. So it was sent to us, the chap, Torben Nielsen, who ran the project out of the University of Hawaii, sent it all pre-prepared, pre-configured, and he said, whatever you do, don't touch anything, just plug it in and turn it on. Didn't even send a manual. So it arrived, so it was a Sunday that I was connecting it up when the circuit came live. And it seemed to be very hot for that time of year, but I guess it was the stress of it. So I plugged it all in, plugged in the wires to our local network, plugged in the telecom connection, turned it on, and it didn't work. And anyway, so I spent some time debugging it and eventually came to the conclusion that the interface had been incorrectly configured. So I was talking to the guy, Torben Nielsen at the University of Hawaii, and he finally agreed that he had sent it misconfigured. So he had to read me the manual about how to change the configuration over a speakerphone. And it meant opening the box up and moving a chip. So I had the box open, and I didn't have the right gear for taking the chip out, so I was using a screwdriver. It seemed to be really hot then. I was sweating, and there were drips of sweat dripping into the box. And anyway, I pulled this chip out, and sure enough, I bent a pin. And I thought, oh my God, after all this effort, after years of talking to CSNet, of getting this universities and everyone to agree to pay half of it, we're going to go down in a ball of flames on day one. Anyway, I gradually straightened out this pin on the chip without breaking it, pushed it back, put it all together, and it worked. So that was a great relief. But then a little while after that, one of the first things I did was sent a ping. Seems a silly thing now, but back then the idea of sending a packet to somewhere else on the internet and getting a response was kind of different. You couldn't do that on the CSNet system, the dial-up system. And soon after that, I tried tracing packets to see where they went, and used an early application called Telnet to connect to a machine. So sort of about 5 or 10 minutes in or so, I was telnetting to some address I'd found to see what it was. And a big message came up on the screen in ASCII then, saying NORAD. And then I thought, oh my God, I've got through this, I've straightened the pin, I've got this router going, and here I am 15 minutes into internet connection, and I'm going to have the feds onto me because, here I am hacking into their military apparatus. And then I was thinking back, well, wait a minute, the trace route I'd done, that kind of got far. So I gradually sort of backtracked through all of this, and then finally I saw that this was a completely innocuous name server at NASA. And what it was is Marlon Medine, the head engineer for the NASA Science Internet, he sort of goes through themes where he adopts the vocabulary from some sector of industry or the economy or whatever as is sort of a lexicon. And at the time he was working with the military terms. I think he may have coined the term demilitarized zone.
I've heard that story.
And he had chosen to call his name server NORAD. So that was another tense moment.